Hello everyone, welcome back on the weekly market update from Xylostar. Sam Ruslan is here. Market has performed pretty impressively in the past week and we can see it compelling to our analysis pretty well, and we're going to hop right into it in a second. If you haven't followed Xylostar education on TradingView, make sure you do, because it'll be updated once the charts are out and our analysis is there for you to make advantage of. All right, now to kick it off with gold. As you guys can see, on a higher time frame, gold seems to be forming a symmetrical triangle. However, according to what we've highlighted in the previous week, it is true that according to trend lines, we had a break and retest in this method, or we can see in this line, as a break and retest in a market structure which seemed bearish, but we've highlighted few points why we had a very, where we had a very heavy weighted opinion that gold could be also very bullish in the previous week's video. If you really want to understand analysis more, I would recommend you to combine both these videos together to get into the results that we're highlighting at the moment. And we can see that even after that retest, gold continued going up. Now on this time frame, we see gold forming some sort of symmetrical triangle. However, we can see that there are weights on the lower part. So you can see that once the market fell to this trend line, it didn't really fall into it. It fell into a support level. And next time, the support level was on the trend line of this triangle pattern. And from here, we can see a Marubozu forming. However, we don't really get Marubozos or strong bearish, bias or strong bearish movements directly once it reaches to a trend line, or once it's reaching to the trend line inside this triangle. So we can see also that market is forming for us this resistance. There's slightly more weight on the bullish movements. So we expect gold to further make another consolidation inside this pattern, because we have a bearish pattern on a smaller time frame, which can cause gold to retrace. And from here, we can see it going up, or there is a good possibility, or a decent possibility, that price can continue going to the trend line before a huge possible breakout to the upside. So this is about gold, pretty interesting stuff. And we're gonna move into NASDAQ. Now, taking a look at NASDAQ, exactly as we've highlighted in the past week, NASDAQ has retraced to the trend line, and also we've highlighted once it does, you guys should be taking a long entry. And as we can see, results are pretty impressive. Now, what should you do right now? We can see that there is multiple signs for pressure from bulls in the market after the retracement or the correction, right? From here, we have multiple scenarios. In either one of these scenarios, you optimally want to be bullish. So we have decent Marubozos formed by the end of the week, or last Friday. Today is Saturday. So we can expect a further breakout and price reaching to the upper trend line of this ascending channel, which is not the optimal movement that we want to look for. We want to look for a retracement. It could be on several levels, right? So it could either go a little bit of retracement before we look for an entry for a bullish segment or a bullish trade, or a deeper retracement before a continuation to the upside. So this is what optimally we would like for. Even if it continues up, it is not an optimal price to go directly in as a bull trade for. All right, so that will be about NASDAQ. Let's go into Nifty50. Looking at Nifty50, also as we've highlighted and analyzed in the previous week, Nifty50 has retraced to the support, and we stick to the same expectation that from here we can expect the price to continue up. However, there is a little, for those of you who understand candle movements, a little bit of keen bears. So we might see a little bit of a push to the below, perhaps to this level, right? Before markets go up. And most likely, if this happens on Monday, it will be just a volatile movement, liquidation, before Nifty50 finds its way to the upside. So that's it about Nifty50. Let's go into Bitcoin. Bitcoin, oh my, وما أدراك ما Bitcoin. So looking at Bitcoin, we can see a clear descending channel on the 1 hour time frame. However, is it bearish really, or is it bullish? So taking a look at the bigger picture, Bitcoin is forming some sort of bull flag, right? And we all know what a bull flag means. However, right now we are at almost the highest price at this trend line. Now we can see that market has grabbed liquidity on a smaller time frame in this smaller side range and moved down. So if the markets are to be bearish and optimally from the peak of this trend, we want to see Bitcoin doing something like that retracement to here and a continuation to the downside, or at least a retracement to support or filling to the support. However, it didn't. What happened is Bitcoin moved inside this range again and went a little bit above it, which reflects as in strength in bullish momentum. So there are two scenarios here we can look at. Scenario number one is where Bitcoin retraces to the trend line before a continuation and a very possible breakout above the trend line, or there is another scenario which more likely to happen, I would say, which is we could see a breakout soon. And if a breakout happens, you would want to manage your risk pretty well. Also, we can see on this Bitcoin is also forming some sort of bull flag, and there's a little bit of break and retest and a movement from the retest of that bull flag. So to what I would consider Bitcoin is bullish, you just wanna get a better entry. So if we get the indications that a breakout is to happen by Monday, then yeah, I would recommend you go on bullish. If not, then wait for a retracement before you enter into a bull trade. So that's about Bitcoin. Let's shift into EURUSD. All right, taking a look at EURUSD, we have an interesting chart here. EURUSD has formed a double top, and that's due to a break below the trend line of the previous ascending trend and a retracement or a continuation in that bearish trend. However, the situation right now is we have to keep in mind that EURUSD has found strong support at its recent broken ascending triangle, which is this, the one I've highlighted in previous videos. So we can see that there is decent interest in from bulls on this support, and also decent interest in bears on this resistance. So what it is showing so far is that EURUSD is still consolidating, and anything within between this range could possibly be considered volatile. Now we can see that after the break or the double marabouts here, we didn't really get a retracement and we got it in here. But still, on a smaller time frame, we can see that there is some sort of symmetrical triangle, can also be considered as a bullish pennant. Hence, we have a small tilt that this trend or this movement, not trend, can continue to the upside a little bit before a retracement to the downside, right? So this is what we're looking for into EURUSD. Every other asset we've highlighted so far gives, personally, I would say, better opportunities for you. So even if you stay away from EURUSD for a week, it's not really gonna do you much. Always go behind opportunities, not behind your preferences. That makes sense. All right, that'll be it about technical analysis, and let's talk about fundamentals. All right, everyone, so here we are shifting into the fundamental analysis part. So going to Forex Factory, looking at the economic calendar of the events and reports that have been into the market throughout the previous week. We had on Monday a very, very essential report, the consumer price index for the Switzerland franc. And we can see that the consumer price index remained unchanged in July compared with the previous month at 107.8 points, right? So inflation was plus 0.2% compared with the same month of the previous year. We also had the Services Purchasing Manager Index from the Institution of Supply Management on the United States dollar on August 5th, which was Tuesday, and we had pretty interesting negative results on that. So the Services Purchasing Manager Index indicated expansion at 50.1%, above the 50% break-even point for the 12th time in the last 13 months. Right, we had Business Activity Index at 52.6%, New Orders Index at 50.3%, Employment Index at 46.4%, and the Supplier Deliveries Index at 51%. We also have multiple events from the Bank of England that have affected the Great British Pound. So starting with the Bank of England Monetary Policy Report, Monetary Policy Summary, and MPC official bank rate votes and the official bank rate. Now, the current inflation in UK, as the Bank of England states, is 3.6%. The target that they want to reach to is 2%, while the current rate is 4%. After the Bank of England members, they've decided to decrease the bank rate by 0.25%. And we had also the Governor Andrew Bailey. He highlighted the Bank of England's monitoring of global factors impacting the UK economy, such energy prices and geopolitical events. After that, we had another negative reports on the United States dollar, which was worse than expected unemployment claims, which further pushed the dollar index down, as we can see, and also pushed gold prices up. And later on the week, we had unemployment reports on the Canadian dollars, which, as we can see, we had a positive unemployment rate and a negative unemployment change, which caused a little bit of volatility on the Canadian dollar, which ultimately led for a slight bearish movement in it. And that's because the employment change is majorly less than expected and less than the previous report. So this is about the previous week. We are looking at way many reports and events to happen in the upcoming week, right? Majorly, we will be having an eye looking at the CPI, the annual and the month over month and the year by year, and the core CPI month over month on the United States dollar by the 12th of August. That'll be Tuesday. Which is when we will be doing live trading in Xylostar. So if you guys are watching this video, I would recommend you to come by. It will be at 4 p.m. Our Xylostar branch in Dubai, opposite to Future Museum. Just Google Xylostar and you'll find the location. Feel free to reach out to us to book a seat for you prior to that. Because we will expose to you how experts deal with reports and how we initiate moves and make decisions. So also we will have another PPI and core PPI unemployment claims in the 14th of August by Thursday on the United States of dollar, and that will be a highlight, followed by the core retail sales and the retail sales, and of course prelim consumer statement and inflation expectations, all on the United States dollar on Friday by week end, or not the weekend, by the week ending, if that makes sense. I'm pretty sure it made sense in the first, but just to keep things clear for you guys. All right, we expect pretty much a volatile movement on the dollar by upcoming week. Keep an eye on markets and we'll keep you updated.